Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another video from Fantasy Football Scout. My name is Az. I am joined by Gianni on our weekly video. How you doing, Gianni? Good international break?
Yeah, great. I'm delighted that I didn't wildcard this week because
Mm,
otherwise my international break would have been tinkering daily, hourly for 2 weeks. And instead, by doing it the week before, I have the same, pretty much the same team I'll be wildcarding to now, and I had a nice little break, which was
yeah,
lovely.
yeah. You left all the stress to me. I'm on the wild card this week, and do you know what? It's not that bad. I did my team last week and haven't really been tinkering with it too much.
Oh, nice.
There's a couple of players coming in and out. One of your mates is currently is in my team, which we're going to talk about in a bit. But yeah, I kind of agree. It does feel like there's quite a settled sort of wildcard template, which I don't
Yeah.
know. It's a little bit frustrating in a way because you want there to be picks and differential teams and all that, but the other way it's a bit quite relaxing, isn't it, to know kind of who you want and and
Yeah.
what to do with your team. It's rare.
It's great. Like, you don't want to be going into a wild card with five or six 50-50 calls. Is it
Mm.
X or is it Y? Now, human nature and being FPL enthusiasts will mean we always go into a wild card with at least one or two 50-50. It's a coin toss. But, if you're in that place, you're probably pretty settled, which
Yeah.
is quite nice, which you sound like you are. So, yeah, nice one.
Well, we'll see. Probably get to Friday night, and I'll probably take a lot of them out. That's what tends to happen. Black box night as well. So Mark will probably talk me into a load of players that I hadn't even considered, which would be nice.
Yeah.
Right, before we look at your Gameweek 7 team, which seems like a long time ago, I just want to give a shout out to Fantasy 5. Fantasy Scout are partnered with Fantasy 5 this year. It's a complimentary game to play alongside FPL. It's completely free, and there's a £10,000 jackpot to be won every week. If you don't win one week, there's loads of other monthly, weekly, seasonal prizes, and you can set up mini leagues to challenge your friends. And there's a Fantasy Football Scout mini league as well in the link in the description below. Just to give a bit of context onto what Fantasy 5 is, you pick 5 players, one from 5 different matches, and they all have a fantasy points target. If the player you pick outscores their fantasy target, then you win. You can tick them off, and if you get all 5, you win the 10 grand. I play it every week. I genuinely love it. It's really simple. Only takes a few minutes to do. Haven't won it yet, but Gianni and I will be talking about our team selection for the week coming ahead. We'll win it one day, won't we, Gianni? It's bound to happen,
Hope
right?
so. I can't wait to spend 10K with you on a night out in London or something. We'll have a great night, won't we?
We will, yeah. Because we went out because Josh, who I do the fan team videos with, he won fan team last year, so we went out to London a few weeks ago, and he put some money behind the bar. That was a very good night. So yeah,
Nice.
we will do the same if we do it for sure. The weekly prizes are a Premier League football kit of choice. So that's always a nice one to go for. And the monthly prize for October was a 28-inch 4K gaming monitor. So the prizes for these things are really good. And the overall prize is Champions League final tickets. So, no expense spared with the prizes there. So get involved. As I said, all links in the description. And if you're interested, stick around at the end of this video and Jenny and I will talk about our team. Speaking of teams, let's have a look at your Game Week 7. If you can remember it, I'll read out the players you had. Ramsdale came in with 6. So this was your wildcard team. So yeah, it did okay, to be fair. Ramsdale 6, Rudiger 2, Cancelo 0. Diaz came in for Christensen with a nice old 0. Salah with 13. We'll talk about him in a bit. Foden with 7. We'll definitely talk about him in a bit. Rafinha with 3. Saka with 3. And then Antonio 2. Lukaku captain with 4. And then the big man Jimenez coming in with 10. So kind of it was a week where a lot of the players I thought would do well didn't. And a lot of the players that I perhaps didn't think would do so well kind of came in. So let's talk about some of the players that came in for you. So your highest score this week was Salah with 13. Wasn't really backed by too many with a captaincy armband, given that he was playing City. What do you reckon about him going forward, though? Do you think he might, even in the tougher games, we've still got to start considering him, right?
We all just think we're too smart, don't we? Like, very few FPL managers, and I know there are a few out there like Lynn that went, I'm giving him the armband,
Mm.
but we all just think we're better than that. And we all think we can go, no, of course, it can't be Salah perma captain because he's got a tricky fixture and Lukaku or Ronaldo have got an easy one. So can I see myself going perma captain ever on anyone? No, because I probably overthink everything. Is it a wise move moving forward when he's in the form of his life? Perhaps it is. But I just don't want to play the game like that. I like having the decision to make. So, for example, of course, this week against Watford looks great, but will anyone captain Salah against United next week when Lukaku has Norwich? I'm guessing no. But if you want to, I mean, form is showing us and history is showing us that actually it's not the worst idea in the world, but I can't see myself ever going there.
No, it is a tricky one because I can't work out. I mean, it is a bit of a differential, right? Going for so United and Lukaku v Norwich is a perfect example. I mean, within our kind of Twitter sphere, very, very few people are probably going to go for Salah, like we saw this week. Because United is a tougher fixture, and we tend to play the fixtures when we're picking our captains. So you could argue that actually you're going for the more left field differential pick, but at the same time, I think in the grander schemes of things, you're going to benefit more from going for a good player against a weaker side. I think if you've got Lukaku v Norwich, you don't captain him. You might as well just have a really strong squad and just stick the captaincy on Salah every week and just hope for the best, because it's the only reason why we have multiple premiums, right? To give us the option of captaincy when the fixtures are better for some and worse for others. Yeah,
exactly that. I just think it makes it more fun if we're moving the armband round, but we can't deny how good he's been. He's just stepped up a level this season, hasn't he?
I'm not quite sure how Ronaldo won Player of the Month. It seems a little bit of a bias there.
It was a little bit like when was it Ryan Giggs got Sports Personality of the Year, and it was more like Lifetime Achievement Award, and it just feels like Ronaldo's back in the Premier League. It's like an achievement. It's yay, thank you for coming back and for scoring a couple of goals off goalkeeper howlers. Like, look at Mo Salah, God's sake.
I know. I mean, overall performance-wise, Salah's just been a league above, I think. Yeah. I mean, Ronaldo's been doing well, scoring goals, having shots and stuff, but all-round performance-wise, Salah's just been an absolute monster this season. So, yeah, I was surprised, but not that surprised to see Ronaldo win it. Just kind of the way of the world. Okay, so you have the good performance here. So Jimenez came in, 2 assists, 10 points. You stuck with him on the wild card. How you feeling about him going forward? You bought him in?
Yes, I bought him in on the wild card, which I was happy about. And he's one of those players where you always watch him and think, if Wolves are going to score, he's going to be involved. Wolves had obviously been underperforming. And then as soon as I saw Jimenez get that goal the week before I wildcarded, I knew when I wildcarded he'd be in. It's that same old striker scores goal after a drought, but has been playing well and still getting chances. And you just know there's going to be a run. Now, he didn't actually score, of course. He got 2 assists for 2 brilliant Hwang finishes. But the beauty of Jimenez is he gets those assists. And how many strikers, number 9s, that also get goals, get assists? Not many. Yeah. And he always delivers in the BPS, as you know, he's the sort of striker that does really well in the metrics of the BPS. And he plays 90. We'll see him on some of the pens. Wolves have got good fixtures. It was a no-brainer that Jimenez came in. And I know a lot of wildcarding this week and looking at Hwang instead of Jimenez. I think both are great options. Of course, if money's no issue, it's Jimenez all day long. But Hwang at 5.5, I can see why people are going there to try and cover that Wolves attack. Just for me, I think Jimenez is worth the extra if you can find it. And I know it's quite a lot extra, which is why people love the Hwang move.
Hwang move. It's a great name as well. I think that's why a lot of people are going there. But yeah, Jimenez looks great. I mean, a bit like Tony's, he's almost been tasked with like being a bit of a creator for the side now, and lots of attacks going through him. I completely agree. I held off on him because I wanted to see him get that goal, and he did. And now I think he could go on a bit of a run. So I think he's a really good pick. And I do wonder if people going with Hwang are gonna regret it. They didn't just pay that little bit of extra for him. So yeah, really like that. Okay, let's talk about Phil Foden. You must be so proud of yourself. I almost don't want to ask you about it, but I mean, you went with him. You were debating him or Greenwood, weren't you? Right up until the deadline. You backed yourself. You went with Foden. He got you a goal, and now everyone's clamouring to get him, including myself.
Yeah, and I said on this very stream 2 weeks ago, if I don't buy Phil Foden, I'll eat my hat. And then I went from saying that to going... You
already owe me a hat eating for when I captained Antonio, effectively. You can't have eat 2 hats.
I know. Well, we're even now-ish. But yeah, my plan then was going, do I go Greenwood 1 week and then bring in Foden for this week, knowing the fixtures turn? I was always 100% set on bringing Phil Foden in. It was just, do I go game week 7 or 8? And I'm glad I went 7. And look, 7 points, it's like, getting so excited to get for 7 points. But in a week where everyone pretty much blanked, 7 points, and when your differential, who was 0.7% owned when I bought Foden, he's now over 2%. when he gets 7 points at 0.7% owned, that's the same as Rafinha getting me 20 points. Like that 7 points is huge because no one else is getting those 7. And how unlucky was I? I mean, Phil Foden in that game, if should have that was a 15-point game if ever I've seen one for Phil Foden. Absolutely ran the show, missed a 1-on-1. How he didn't get the pen from the Milner challenge, although maybe that would have been a free kick. But first contact looked like it continued into the box. Just ran the show. Now it would be typical Pep to bench him for Burnley, and look, there's always that fear. But I didn't buy Foden for 1 week. I bought Foden knowing that I wanted to cover Man City attack. And when you cover Man City attack, the biggest fear is your guy gets benched. Now, if that's a 9.5 Mahrez or a 9 million Jesus or a 11.5 KDB, that's a problem. If your expensive assets are ever on the bench, that's a real problem. When it's your £7 or £8 million, 7 to 8 million bracket forward that's going to start 2 in 3 or 3 in 4, you just got to take those benching. So if Foden's benched versus Burnley, please, for all of you guys that are buying him, don't sell him off the back of that. Know that that's a risk. No, there's 3 great games coming up, and he's very likely to start 2 of them. You just got to take it. They've got Club Brugge in the Champions League. That's a nice fixture where perhaps Foden doesn't play and Torres plays. They've got the Carabao Cup coming up again. You get some more. You get a few other sort of more fringe players playing. The Premier League will be the priority outside of the big Champions League games. And therefore, I think Foden's going to get good share of minutes, similar sort of minutes to Grealish. I really do. More than Torres, more than Mahrez, similar to Jesus, but a lot cheaper. I think he's a great pick.
Wow. I mean, that, if you want an impassioned, rendition of why we should be getting Phil Foden, I mean, that is definitely it. Yeah, I have to admit, I'm kind of coming around to that way. I still think Grealish is the one that is going to play the most. He doesn't seem to be rested. I mean, he came off after 66 minutes in the last game, but generally speaking, he seems to be playing the majority. But I think you've nailed it with Foden, really, because I think when he does play, and he should play the majority of minutes, unless Pep is going back to last season before, he looks the most likely player that I see to get points from what I'm watching. And we see it a lot with Foden. We've talked about him the last 2 seasons. We always wonder when he's really going to hit this like FPL legend status, because he's got the ability to do it, no question. And he consistent returns, double-digit hauls, captaincy option. It all just comes down to that threat of rotation with him. But I think this is the most likely I've ever seen him to go on a run.
Yeah,
which is why I'm thinking of getting him in.
Yeah, and it's great. Like, people, of course, are reacting to a game we saw where he was brilliant. But he was also brilliant the week before that against Chelsea, where he scored 2 or 3 FPL points. And I just saw him playing as the false 9 in that game. We saw him left against Liverpool, but very central at the same time. And sort of Grealish was a little bit more central, but they were very similar in terms of their touch maps. But you look at Foden and go, he can play in 4 positions in that Man City team, anywhere along the front 3, and then as one of the 2 sort of attacking mid slots, which Pep hasn't really used him in that role. But you look at some of the other City attackers, and they're limited to 2 or 3, or maybe even 1 spot. So there's just way more routes of entry for Foden into that football team, depending on other people's suspensions or injuries or lack of form. You look at Grealish, he's only, at the moment, Pep is only showing he's going to play him wide left, or he did trial him as a false 9 at times against Liverpool. You look at Mahrez, he's only going to play on the right of a 3. You look at Foden, there's so many routes to that team that I just think when he's on form, Pep will find a way of getting him in more often than not. Of course, there'll be benchings, as we said, but you take them for your 7.9 million asset, that's fine.
What do you reckon on Ferran Torres? Because I'm suddenly seeing a lot of people seemingly forgetting about all the benches and all the problems they've had with him, and he's kind of becoming, I don't know, all exciting. Everyone's getting all excited about him again, thinks he's going to start. But if he starts, then what does that mean for Foden?
Yeah, if Torres starts, we know Mahrez will start on the right because there's no Jesus this weekend, or very unlikely. So for me, I'm looking at it going, okay, then it's a toss of a coin between Grealish and Foden for that left of the 3 spot. We also know that Foden plays as the false 9 in the bigger games. Will Foden play false 9 against Burnley? I'm not so sure. He might want a Raheem Sterling or a Torres, and I think it's probably between the 2 of them for the number 9 slot. Against weaker teams, he plays with a number 9, not a false 9. And Sterling and Torres are not false 9s. When they play in that role, they play as the 9. Foden doesn't play as a 9, just like KDB doesn't. they play false nine against tough opposition, as we've seen in the last 2 Premier League games. But look, if you own Torres, you keep him and you hope he starts. If you're on a wild card, I wouldn't be bringing Torres in at all. And I'm surprised so many are. I think they're doing it because he scored a couple of goals against Italy. He looked great for Spain, but he's always scored goals for Spain when he goes on internationals. Pep, he's not flavour of the month for Pep. And yes, he might start against Burnley, but if you're bringing Torres in, just know you will be looking to move him very soon because he will not get the 3 and 4 starts that a Foden or a Grealish could get.
No,
he just won't get them. So you'll become so frustrated. You'll see him bench twice in a row, which will happen in game week 9 or 10 or 10 and 11, and then you sell him. So if you want a 1 week punt, yeah, you could look there. But moving forward, you just don't want to risk it. He's a massive rotation risk.
You're probably going to get about as many minutes from Torres as you would of Mahrez, for example. But I'm not seeing anyone considering Mahrez.
Yeah.
Because why would you? Because Gabriel Jesus is there, Foden can play there. There's just too many options. I don't like the fact Torres has got. He was a decent option at the start of the season with Foden and De Bruyne out.
Yeah.
Now they're back. Who knows who's going to play false nine? He's a definite no go for me. Just a comment on the chat. I don't know what people been drinking in their tea this morning, but the chat is very negative. Shout out to Matthew Kent who has not been spamming at all, but he's getting loads of stick. So yeah, if you're still there, Matthew Kent, don't worry about the haters. You're all good. I'm keeping my eye on things. Let's talk about your team then, Gianni, going forward. I mean, it's a sea of blue, really. I think this. I mean, I hate to say it, but I think this could be a good week for you. Ramsdale in goal, Palace at home. And you've got double City defence, Diaz and Cancelo, Burnley at home. Double Chelsea defence, Rudiger and Christensen, Brentford away. You've got Salah captain of Watford away. Phil Foden, Burnley at home. Rafinha, Southampton away. Antonio, Everton away. Lukaku, Brentford away. Jimenez, Aston Villa away. Saka on your bench as well, shows your depth.
Yeah.
It's a good side.
It's funny because I planned the wild card for game week for the international break originally, and then I was looking at it going, yes, things could change, but I reckon if I was to wildcard in the international break, it would look like this sort of team. And so I'm pleased I pulled the trigger 2 weeks, 1 game week early. And actually, some of the players I brought in on my wildcard, like the Triple City, they weren't for that Liverpool fixture. They were from game week 8 onwards. So now I'm kind of seeing the rewards because, of course, Cancelo 0 points last week, Diaz 0 points. That wasn't brilliant. I sold the likes of Ben White, who got a clean sheet. So I feel like this is almost like my wildcard team from this week on.
The thing is, you came away from that week with 50 when I saw people with 30, 32. A 50 was a decent score. So
yeah, I think I was probably around 5 to 10 points up of if I didn't wildcard because I would have had Sanchez and White at the back, 2 lots of clean sheets, but I wouldn't have had Jimenez and I wouldn't have had Foden. So yeah, I definitely take that. Look, I don't have Trent, and part of my wild card, I knew that there was a good chance he'd be back for Watford, and of course that's a risk.
He's the standout omission, isn't he?
Yeah, he's almost the elephant in the room. When you look at how good this team looks, like it still has no Trent. I do have an easy-ish route to Trent, and the plan was always in 2 weeks' time, Jimenez downgrade to Tony because Tony goes on the most unbelievable fixture run. And then that gives me enough to upgrade any of those defenders, whichever one I fancy, perhaps Christensen or Diaz, to Trent. The problem with that is I'm selling Jimenez, who would still be in potentially really good form and have really good fixtures. So I just need to tread carefully, which is why, knowing I don't have Trent, I love the flexibility of being able to get him any week if I have a transfer saved. So this week, I don't want to make any transfers for the sake of it, knowing I'm going to have an issue in a couple of weeks to get Trent in. If I can keep rolling a transfer, I think that'd sit very nicely with me. So that's kind of the transfer plan. I'm not looking at bringing anyone in. I've got the depth on my bench. I don't expect Rafinha to play, but then Saka comes in.
Yep.
And if Christensen or Rudiger don't play, or even Lukaku, worst case scenario, then Livramento isn't the worst fixture in the world. Leeds, if Bamford's not playing, I don't think he is, and Southampton are at home, then, Livramento's always got a attack and return in him too. So I'm fairly happy, even if a couple of flagged players don't play, although I think Lukaku and Rudiger will probably be fine. Christensen's obviously always a little bit of a risk, and Rafinha I don't think will. So it's very unlikely that 11 will take the field. I expect Saka and probably or possibly Livramento to come in.
You've got to feel happier with an actual bench, right? Like, I remember looking at your team a few weeks ago with Parika there, and I think you had 4 million defender, See, Jake agrees as well. He's barking there. But yeah, I mean, I'm seeing wildcard teams who are going really, really cheap at the back, and having the likes of Rafinha and Christensen and Lukaku and all these doubts that we've kind of got around, and I just think I want two options. Livramento is perfect. He's the perfect 4-ish million defender to have in, but I want another decent player to have. You've got Saka in this lineup. I'm looking at Smith Rowe in mine. It just gives you that little bit of comfort blanket, doesn't it? That means that you can absorb a benching for someone, especially when you've got Foden in your team as well. You need one.
Yeah, you do. And I think because I knew I was going Foden and I knew I was going Christensen, I thought, I do need a slightly stronger bench. The problem I have is there's a good chance Saka's going to spend a lot of time on my bench. Like if this is the 11 that takes the field most weeks. Now, if Saka's being on the bench, there's a big argument to say, Gianni, why didn't you go Smith Rowe and save the million? Because if he's only going to be a bench player. But I look at the fixtures and I look at how much I love Saka as an FPL asset. And actually, I think he'll start. I think he'll be in my 11 a lot, which is why I went with him over Smith Rowe. But that means, in a way, I'm creating a bit of a benching headache for myself most weeks. Like it's a really nice fixture. Let's say these 11 do play and Rafinha was fit. It doesn't sit well with me that I'd be benching Saka. I'd much prefer benching Smith Rowe, just knowing it's less money than on my bench. But look, if it needs a little bit of a benching headache every week, I'm willing to go there. I also do feel like the likes of Foden and Christensen will miss games. And sometimes when those guys do, they won't come on and I won't get the 1 point and I will get the auto sub of Saka. So there you go. Yeah, I'm happy with the depth. Brownhill, I purposely went as 4.4. Why have a 4.5 there? I don't expect him to play. The Brownhill will get as many points, I think, as most of the 4.5s anyway. So save your 0.1. I think that's a smart move for anyone on a wild card. Third sub, get a 4.4 in there if you can. I think Brownhill's still 4.4. So yeah, I'm happy with it. I'm really happy.
I think the only comment I've got, which I'm not trying to play mind games with you or anything like that, but I would probably be looking to start Saka in this game. I'm a bit surprised that you've gone for the double Chelsea defence against, because Brentford away, given what we've seen so far, isn't a particularly easy fixture for them. Mm-hmm. Christensen doesn't offer a whole lot of attacking threat. Okay, Rudiger has a bit more about him. It's not like you're looking at Alonso or a Reece James or something like that. Christensen versus Saka, are you not a bit tempted to swap Saka in for him?
Yeah, to be fair, that's a good point. I probably would be. Having thought about it, I would swap Christensen with Saka.
Sorry, having thought about, you mean listening to me tell you to put Saka in over Christensen? No, I see how it is. Yeah.
Do you know what it was though, Az? I didn't do it because I just know that Rafinha's not playing, so I know Saka's coming in regardless. But yeah, you're right. Listening to you, Christensen should come out.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that's very, very humble of you, Gianni. Very humble of you. I'd be surprised if Rafinha did play. I mean, he's back on the Friday, and then the game's on the Saturday, and playing for a Bielsa team. He's going to
start. I think he's going to start for Brazil. I think
do I.
So no chance.
I mean, Bielsa is so much about energy, and there's such a high press and all that stuff that goes into their game. I just can't imagine someone could, fly. Even if I don't know what the time difference means it is, but if it's less than 24 hours, surely there's no way he's going to feature in that squad. I'd be very surprised. But Liverpool have already confirmed, haven't they, that Alisson and Firmino won't. Is it Firmino as well? I know definitely saw Alisson. I can't remember if it was Firmino as well. But the Brazilian players who are in the intention won't be starting that match. Again,
they're an hour 2.5 hours earlier, aren't they, the Liverpool lads? But still, I can't that because only 12:30 kick off on Saturday. But I'm with you. I just cannot see it. Yeah. And actually, that Liverpool Watford game, you think, okay, without the Brazilians, it's still surely going to be a bit of a rout, and Salah run wild. We're still giving Salah the armband, aren't we?
Yeah, I know, that's the thing. Yeah, I'd love to make a case for captaining someone like Lukaku or going for a Foden. I mean, I think City could win that game 4 or 5-0. They always seem to beat Burnley, at home by that score. Burnley, I think, are maybe more vulnerable than we've seen as well in previous seasons. Yeah. It could, but City, I guess, are a little bit less. They haven't got Aguero or a talisman striker, but you'd still expect City to win that. If it was any other game but Watford, I would be saying, oh, maybe we could be tempted. Maybe I'd be trying to talk you into a Foden captaincy. But
if Foden was guaranteed 90 minutes, I genuinely, if you said to me Foden's guaranteed 90, I've got a crystal ball here, I would captain Foden over Salah because it's Burnley at home, the home advantage, and and Ranieri and just Watford going and the early kickoff and some of the Brazilian players, they would all plant little seeds of doubt. And I would just go, the upside of Foden at 2% owned. For me, I'd look at it and go, they're going to score I think they've got an equal chance of hitting 15 points each. So therefore, go for the upside of Foden. But look, Foden ain't going to, well, we don't know if he's going to play 90. We know Salah will. So it's Salah all day long.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones as well. I mean, we talk about EO and you know how much I love talking about EO, but this almost is the perfect opportunity for someone to consider those things you've mentioned. You know, maybe not a fully strong Liverpool side. The games after an international break can sometimes be a bit more unpredictable. We're going to see Salah's EO at what? 170, 180? We're going to see triple captains being played on him against Watford.
Yeah.
It could be a week where someone who goes a bit different, you know, really does benefit. But I just think it's one of the two easiest fixtures there are. You know, Norwich and Watford, I think, are the teams I want to target, and Salah's the best player in the league. So it's very hard not to go for him. I think that's about it, really. What do you reckon about on Antonio then? I mean, you've still got Antonio in your team. You've obviously haven't got Ben Rama anymore. I'm still seeing quite a few people sticking with him. But are you're not? I'm guessing you're not planning on selling Antonio anytime soon, right?
Don't want to. My route to Trent means Jimenez down to Tony. If Jimenez is flying in 2 weeks' time, and Antonio's had a couple of blanks, and West Ham don't look great, that could become Antonio to Tony, and you keep Jimenez, and then I've got the money for Trent. But I don't want to sell Antonio ever. His underlyings are too good. Just speaking to Late Riser about an hour ago, actually, who's on a wildcard draft, and I know he's considering going without Antonio on a wildcard draft, and I don't think it sits well with him. He doesn't want to do it, but you can't have them all, can you? So for me, if I was on wildcard, I'd probably have him in, and obviously I'm not looking to transfer him out anytime soon. But if the form does dip, or the point, or West Ham don't look great going forward for whatever reason, because of their European fixtures, it might just turn me away. But I think to do that, I would need lots of other options like Jimenez firing, because, you know, we've said all season, haven't we? Antonio's delivering like a premium, whether that's on the points he's getting in FPL, which we all love, but also when you look at the underlying stats. So you'd surely be foolish to sell him, wouldn't you? But then maybe you go fixtures, maybe you go Champions League, and maybe you go lots of other great options out there, and you think maybe it's
just a lack of real kind of alternatives around his price, right? I mean, Bamford could have been the one maybe that with the fixtures Leeds have got, but Bamford, we still don't really know what his injury status is. You know, Leeds haven't exactly been amazing. I think it's a massive gamble to be making that switch.
Who have you got up front as? Who are you looking at in your wild card?
I've got Lukaku, Antonio, and currently Neil Maupay.
Okay.
just for a 1 weeker versus Norwich.
Is he 6 mil?
He's 6'5", and then he's an easy switch over to Tony. Next week.
So you will be looking to cover Tony.
Yeah, and I'll be grabbing Mbeumo as well, because his stats are fantastic.
I was close on Mbeumo last week. So the two decisions that I went against, which didn't work out well, I went Rudiger over Azpilicueta. That cost me big, but I'm fine with it. And then I went Saka over Mbeumo. They were the two. And the only reason I went Saka over Mbeumo was I knew I was going to get Tony, and I'm just not sure if I'm up for double Brentford attack. But actually, having watched them again last week, maybe I am up for double Brentford attack. When
check out my video, Gianni, if you're interested. Tony versus Mbeumo. See what I come up with. I won't say what the conclusion was, because you can watch it, and so can everyone else.
Okay.
I don't want to give it away. But yeah, very interesting. I mean, they're two players in very different roles for their side. I think the biggest worry with Mbeumo is he another Traore? Because he's getting a lot of chances, but not really converting them. And I'd worry about his clinical side. But, you know, he's everything about him looks good. It's a really interesting week, this, I have to say, because we're seeing loads of wildcards. So, you know, there's been the Gameweek 7 and the Gameweek 8 wildcards. Lots of people have played those. A lot of people are standing firm and not doing it. So, you know, a lot of people are moving away from the likes of Ronaldo, Ben Rama, and these guys. And, you know, if they deliver, then the wildcards are probably going to be a bit miffed. But equally, there's potential now with, like you're doing, the double up in defence, players like Foden coming in, and people just spending more at the back, really, because the people that are losing Ronaldo are able to invest that money, and it seems to be mostly going into backlines, because there aren't too many sort of 8-9 million midfielders that people are really considering. So yeah, very, very interesting season. It'd be devastating when Chelsea and City concede in the first 5 minutes and Benrahma goes on and scores a hat-trick. That's going to burn us both, I think. Right, let's talk about Fantasy 5 then. Mentioned at the start of the video. If you're just tuning in, check it out if you haven't checked it out already. The 5 fixtures this week are Villa v Wolves, Leicester v United, Brentford v Chelsea, Everton v West Ham, and Newcastle Tottenham. And I have to say, they are 5 really hard to call fixtures. I'm finding this week, apart from City Burnley and Liverpool Watford, which look pretty dead certs on wins for the bigger teams, it's a tough week because, I mean, you look at Villa Wolves, you've got the derby there, Leicester United, both have been a bit ropey. Brentford Chelsea, Brentford could cause an upset here. Everton West Ham, 2 evenly matched sides given previous performances, and Newcastle Tottenham, and you've got the richest club in the world now versus Spurs. So, well, let's start with Villa Wolves. What do you reckon on this? Where would your money be if you're going for one of these two sides?
I'd sit on the fence with this. I actually do think this has got draw written all over it. I think they cancel each other out, these teams. I think they both hit a little bit of form recently. I sometimes, after international breaks, I sometimes look at who's most affected by long distance travelled or potential rotation. But Jimenez looks like he's got an okay rest, so I think he starts. So, for example, Leicester, Man United, I'm quite set on my opinions there, and I'll give you them in a sec. But yeah, because of the internationals. But I don't know. What do you reckon, Az? Where are you thinking? I mean, Watkins is Watkins over Ings all day long for me at those prices.
Yeah, Watkins at 6.5 looks good. I mean, you said about Jimenez's rest. I think he's playing Thursday. It's I don't know. I think he might. I think he'll probably start. He gets a little bit extra, but I think Hwang might be the one that I'd go for if I was going for a Wolves player. But yeah, I think Watkins is a good shout at 6.5. I'm happy to go with Watkins or Hwang.
Yeah,
let's go Watkins. We go with you. Right then, come on then. So what do you reckon? Leicester United, you got strong opinions on this, have you?
I do, because United have looked rubbish. Leicester have looked poor at the back, so I think there's goals in it. But Leicester have this guy that no one's talking about in FPL this season. This guy doesn't play for England anymore. He really should do. This guy is Jamie Vardy. Now, Jamie Vardy is getting towards the end of his career, but he's still really fit. He doesn't play international. So what does that mean? He gets 2 weeks rested. So yes, he would have done some training, but he's going to be so fresh. And he's going to be facing a defence that has no Varane and no Maguire. Yes, please.
No brainer. Straight in. Yeah, it's very true. I think Vardy is going massively underrated. Karen was on the Scoutcast last night. He's got him in his team.
Has he? Yeah.
Been benefiting from those points. He's always someone that I think a lot of us are just going to overlook because he's not playing for a top side. Yeah. He's quite expensive, and people are looking to Ronaldo and Lukaku and stuff. But yeah, I really like Vardy. I think he's a strong pick.
If we got told Lukaku was out this week, and I don't think he will be, that's genuinely the only transfer I'd perhaps make. If I knew Lukaku was out for a couple of weeks, I would maybe look to sell him and bring Vardy in for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I think I completely agree. Brentford Chelsea then. So obviously Brentford are priced a lot less on some of these. Tony's there at 6.5. And Bremer's more 7.5. And then a lot of the defenders, they've got pretty much all the defenders at 6.5. So I think we're going to ignore all of those. You then got Lukaku there at like 9.5. I can't see Lukaku. I just can't see Lukaku getting double digits against Brentford at the moment. They look really good. I think it's Tony or Embremo for me.
Yeah, I don't hate that. And you look at Chelsea's backline, and they've all been away. Like, they wouldn't have spent any time on the training ground together the last couple of weeks. So you look at the way Brentford have been attacking, and you always think there's a goal in there. Like, how good were they against West Ham? We didn't expect that. We thought, okay, not against West Ham. But no, they had a good go.
Or we go for Mason Mount at 8.5, or we go for we take a punt on someone like, Alonso and Chilwell, 9.5. Reece James 9.5. No, I'm not.
It's got to be Brentford, isn't it?
I think it's got to be Brentford. Yeah, and Bremo or Tony. Go on, you can pick.
I'm going to go Tony for the penalty appeal, and I know he's only had the one pen, and I know his role in the side because I've not seen your vid as, but I can imagine where you went with it. But I think Tony will still. Provider is there. He has been a provider, but he's going to get a fair share of goals too. So I'll go Tony. I think just
cool. Tony's in.
Such a good finisher, Tony. When you compare the two,
Yeah, it's really interesting. The role he's taken now is playing deeper than he played in the Championship. They have tweaked their tactics. I thought he would just be camped in the penalty area, and they'd be looking to get balls to him. But they've got so much more about them than that sort of just simple strategy. They're an absolutely fantastic side. Really enjoying watching them play. Can't believe Brighton beat them. Everton, West Ham. Then so we've got Calvert-Lewin. Not sure if he's going to be back yet at 6'5". We've got Gray 8'5", Townsend 7'5", and Doucouré. So Gray's been priced a bit higher than the other two. I don't think there's too much in it between them, so we might come back to that in a bit. Then West Ham, you've got the likes of Benrahma, Sojek. Where's Antonio? Antonio's at 6.5, which is
that's cheap for Antonio. Good. Everton defence has been quite good. West Ham defence has been really disappointing this season. And I don't know, Townsend on penalties.
If Calvert-Lewin's out, yeah, he will be.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that game. I feel like, again, a bit like the Villa Wolves game. I could see sort of a score draw there.
I think Antonio at 6'5" is too good to overlook.
You're right.
Just given the stats he's got. I mean, Townsend looks good at 7'5" as well, but I mean, he's more than Antonio. And
that doesn't sit well, does it? Townsend being more than Antonio. It has to be Antonio. What's the deal with Antonio in Jamaica? Did he not travel?
He didn't go.
Did he pull out? So again, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he didn't go. No, he's in. Right, then let's talk about the billionaires then. What do you make of the takeover?
Yeah, it's I mean, it's on the Premier League for me. Like, I don't like the idea of people thinking that it's on Newcastle fans, perhaps they should take a stand against it. Like, many of us have been there. Like, I'm a Chelsea fan. I've got good friends that are City fans. You do support the club, you don't support the owners. The Premier League have taken a very long time on this one. And it's on them. It's not on the fans. So unfortunately, that's just where football has moved. Like, I'm not a big fan of FIFA, but we all support the World Cup. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a tough one.
It is a tough one. And how would you make of them going forward? Do you reckon they're going to... Because my kind of theory is they're going to do what City did. They're going to buy a load of average to slightly above average players, like City did with Les Scott, Adebayor, Santa Cruz, Bellamy, Joe. Yeah, I mean, good players, but not like top 4 players.
Yeah.
But then make a couple of marquee signings, and I reckon in 3 or 4 years they should be right up there, because people are going to buy into this project, I think, and especially when someone like Santa Cruz can earn 150, 160,000 pounds a week. Like, why wouldn't you? So, going to be really interesting. I think St. Maximan's probably the only one that's going to hang around, and maybe Dubravka.
Yeah.
Everyone else is going to be shown the exit door.
It's going to be an interesting one. If they go for the Man City approach, and you mentioned all the names there, many of which were sort of from exotic countries and relatively unknown, but came with a reputation, or they go for the Chelsea approach, which was slightly more reserved, actually, back in 2003-4, whenever it was, where they bought Glenn Johnson and Damien Duff, and there are a few more modest signings that were kind of proven Premier League assets already. And I wonder if Newcastle, I guess it all depends on whoever the manager's going to be, but Newcastle could go after your James Ward-Prowses and your Wilf Zahas, or they could go after your Coutinhos and your Icardis, because they want the bigger names on the, from other countries that perhaps aren't proven in the Premier League, but you look at it and go, they'll attract a global audience and the new manager might want them. It's going to take time, because you look at the team and it's absolutely rubbish, on paper. If you're going to compete for Europe, it's just a million miles from there. So whoever you're bringing in has got to be on the promise that it's not just you coming in this window, mate. You come in with 6 other worldies, because they're not going to want to agree to be the first one playing alongside, Paul Dummett for the first 12 months. So it's going to be interesting. And again, it comes down to the manager. If they go for if they get I think Graham Potter's at about 10-1, you'll be pleased to know, as he's not the favourite. But if they go for a Conte at 4-1 and they get him, then you think that it's going to be a lot of these big names like your Icardis and your Coutinhos. If they get a Brendan Rodgers or a Gerrard or a Potter,
or a Lampard,
then you think it's been linked, or a Lampard, then you think maybe it's going to be more UK-based players. Yeah,
no, you're completely right. I personally think they're just going to get their Conte seems. I don't know why you wouldn't go for him. And all the
if you can get him, and he's 4-1. I think the favourite when I took yesterday was Favre, who is the old Dortmund boss. He was 3-1 and Conte 4-1. So those two look like they're the favourites. It's going to be. I'm excited for the Premier to watch it happen. I just don't like the source of how it's happened.
That's
but
exactly how I feel.
Yeah.
I don't like, I like, we all want football to be pure and for it to be, communities coming together and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, you don't just want two clubs fighting. If the whole league had money and you had a more competitive league throughout, it would be better to watch and better for everyone. So, I'm conflicted. Anyway, what do we reckon about this game then? I mean, I have no idea who's going to win this game. I mean, Spurs should win it. I mean, I'd expect Son, but he's at 10.5. I'd expect him to do well in this.
I've been so underwhelmed with Spurs. Like
So
they never look like they're going to score more than 1 or 2 goals. I never look at that Nuno Spurs team and think there's more than a goal in the game for them. They just don't attack and they don't click when they're attacking. So Steve Bruce could be sacked by the time they play. There's going to be an amazing atmosphere in the ground. My mate Ed is going. He's captain in St Maximan. I feel like St Max at 6.5 is actually not bad value.
For Ed, we'll go with St Maximan. Yeah, I think 6.5 is pretty good. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Newcastle scored a couple of goals in that. With the fans are going to be absolutely buzzing to have finally got rid of Mike Ashley. That's our team then. Ollie Watkins, Jamie Vardy, Ivan Toney, Antonio and St Maximan. As I said, join the Fantasy Scout Fantasy 5 League description. The link's in the description. Make sure you play this week. Our squad is confirmed. But for now, Gianni, that's it from us. We'll be back next week, as always, to see how you got on. You've overtaken me now, as you can see, 132,000, my 198,000. But I'm on my wild card. So, I don't know, your team looks pretty good, but maybe there can't be much in it between us. There's probably only a couple of points at the moment. The ranks are so close to each other, right?
So close. And also, you're pretty much wildcard into my team, so we'll just cancel each other out.
Yeah, oh God, that's depressing as well. Right, Gianni, thanks for joining me. Thanks everyone for watching, and we will